Oh, Mr. Hegseth, can I ask you, do you know what the average cost of a gallon of gas was in this country on February 28th?
Well, it depends on where you live. If you live in California, it's $8.
$2.83. Do you know what the average cost of a gallon of gas is today?
Well, much higher in California.
$4.23. I gotta say, Mr. Hegseth, you said you've got a crack economic team that's looking at the impacts of this war on the American taxpayer, and you can't answer this basic question. That should shock the conscience of every American.
Faced with a $1.5 trillion budget request and $25 billion already expended on the conflict in Iran, Rep. Maggie Goodlander is demanding strict financial accountability from War Secretary Pete Hegseth. Citing the department's long history of failed audits, Goodlander delivered a clear message. The era of blank checks is over, and uncompromising transparency must dictate future appropriations.
Chair, now we're going to recognize a gentlelady from New Hampshire, Ms. Goodlander.
I want to thank our witnesses for being here today, and I want to begin by getting right to it, since my time is limited, on this $1.5 trillion budget request. Mr. Hegseth, you testified last year and you testified again today that you will be accountable for every American taxpayer dollar that comes to the department, where it goes and why. That's really important since, as has been pointed out, the department has failed 8 audits. The department remains on GAO's high-risk list. The Inspector General just last year alone identified billions of dollars that could have been put to better use, and in questioned costs, that is spending that raised red flags. So this is a crisis right now in accountability of where the dollars of the American taxpayers who are in the middle of a cost crisis, where this money is going. I want to ask about your war in Iran. And Mr. Hurst, you testified earlier today that $25 billion has been spent to date. I just want to clarify that that is money, that taxpayer dollars that have been spent already in this war.
$25 reflects the costs of the war, right? So we've already spent the dollars on munitions and things like that. So we're factoring in cost of munitions expended into that total.
So how much of that has gone towards munitions? Does that include the munitions that have been spent to date?
Yeah, that reflects the munitions that have been spent to date and other operational costs.
Can you give us a breakdown of what those costs are?
We'll work to get you guys a product that has a detailed breakdown of those costs.
Yeah, my concern here is, Mr. Hegseth, you've testified repeatedly that you're going to be accountable for each and every American taxpayer dollar that you spend, that you're going to be accountable for the rationale. Here we are 60 days in to your war of choice in Iran, and you can't give us an answer on a breakdown of the basic breakdown of American taxpayer dollars that have been spent in your war of choice? That's a question for Mr. Hurst. Right now, as you sit here now, you
We're
cannot...
happy to give you a breakdown. We'll provide you a product after this hearing.
Well, I would love for you to give us this breakdown now and explain to us, was this unbudgeted costs, or was this something the department planned for in advance, since you were appropriated $1 trillion last year?
The department deals with contingency operations all the time within its normal budget.
So this was not budgeted for. My point here is, you know, and General Kane, you've testified to this. We all understand, for you to do your jobs, you need Congress to pass budgets. For us to do our jobs, we need you to give us the details and to be accountable to American taxpayers. And so I got to say, it's an extraordinary dereliction that as you sit here, you cannot account for billions of dollars that have already been spent.
You're briefed on munitions every week. You and your entire staff have every, just so the American public know, it's not as if you don't have munitions levels. You do from us every single week. So you know exactly the numbers you're talking about.
Mr. Hegseth, you have testified that American taxpayers need to know where their dollars are going. And as you sit here today, you can't provide us with a basic answer to the most simple question that you should be able to answer to each and every American taxpayer.
You're asking a question to an answer with an answer you already have.
No, I'm asking you for a breakdown where you said you will be accountable for every taxpayer dollar. You cannot tell us where any of the $25 billion in taxpayer funds that have gone to fund your war of choice in Iran. And I look forward to getting details from our witnesses after this hearing, because the American taxpayers need to know. Mr. Hegseth, can I ask you, Do you know what the average cost of a gallon of gas was in this country on February 28th?
Well, it depends on where you live. If you live in California, it's $8.
$2.83. Do you know what the average cost of a gallon of gas is today?
Well, much higher in California.
$4.23. I gotta say, Mr. Hegseth, you said you've got a crack economic team that's looking at the impacts of this war on the American taxpayer, and you can't answer this basic question. That should shock the conscience of every American. General Kane, I want to come back to something, a really important principle, and my time is limited. You testified to an important and bedrock principle of American law, that our service members follow lawful orders and lawful orders only. Is that right? Do you agree with the statement, quote, "The military won't follow unlawful orders"?
I do.
Mr. Hegseth, do you agree with that statement?
I do, but understand what you're insinuating at a partisan point.
I'm not. I'm actually quoting you directly, Mr. Hegseth, from April 12th, 2016. And I appreciate that on the record, you've clarified this important principle of American law.
Gentlelady's time's expired.
Guys, you absolutely cannot script this level of Washington arrogance, because we are barely 60 days into this Iran conflict. We've already torched $25 billion of your hard-earned tax dollars, and War Secretary Pete Hegseth literally cannot tell Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander where the money actually went. I mean, the Pentagon gets weekly munitions updates. They burned through $1 trillion appropriation last year, and yet Hegseth has the absolute audacity to sit there and demand a massive $1.5 trillion blank check while completely dodging the department's chronic history of failed audits and unbudgeted ghost operations. But Goodlander did not come to play. She absolutely dismantled him, pivoting from the missing war funds to hit him with a brutal reality check about the skyrocketing average cost of a gallon of gas, perfectly exposing how out of touch this administration is, while everyday Americans are getting crushed at the pump. And the ultimate mic drop? She stared him right in the eye, pulled out the receipts, and threw his own past statements right back in his face, forcing him to confirm on the record that the military will not follow unlawful orders. We are watching the era of the rubber stamp war machine get completely exposed in real time, folks, and it is about time somebody finally stood up and demanded the literal receipts.
As the U.S. and Iran are at a stalemate over peace talks, let's bring in former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper to break down where things might go next. Secretary, great to have you. So the CENTCOM commander visited the White House this week and laid out different options for the president on what he might want to do next. What do you think those options included?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's probably a resumption of hostilities as we have seen over the last 8 weeks, which would mean a coordinated air and naval campaign with Israel against any variety of military and political targets throughout the whole of Iran. That's number one. Number two might be a more limited operation in the sense that it's geographically focused on the Strait of Hormuz, where we try to dislodge Iranian naval units, Iranian cruise missile defense, coastal defense units all along the strait, so we could free it up and make sure that, to the degree possible, the Iranians are no longer able to threaten commercial shipping. So to me, that's the range of options. There are others in between there that might work, but it seems like right now that while the president is reluctant to resume conflict and rather let the economic sanctions take some more effect.
Yeah, the economic sanctions, they are hurting Iran very much. I want to ask you about this headline that caught my attention this week, because there has been some concerns on Capitol Hill about weapons and being ready for the long haul if we have to be. This is on hypersonic missiles. It says the U.S. wants to use hypersonic missiles on Iran. Problem is, it may not work. Although it completed some successful tests in 2024, the Dark Eagle repeatedly failed to launch during other tests because of launcher and production quality issues. And an unnamed defense official told Fox News that the weapon has reached initial operational capability, but the Pentagon testing office says it won't have enough data to evaluate Dark Eagle's combat effectiveness until at least early 2027. This new sophisticated hypersonic missile, is this something that the U.S. is behind on that you're aware of? And do we know if countries like China and Russia have these?
So Russia and China do have hypersonic weapons. It's hard to really understand completely what they can do, their capabilities, the reliability, so forth and so on. We have hypersonic weapons in development as well. It started at least during my era. when I was Secretary of the Army in 2017 and 2018. And they are effective systems, and I have no problem testing them in this scenario. As you may know, we tested what was called the PRISM long-range rocket system not long ago against Iran. It was another system developed during my time, or launched during my time at least. So, look, I think a conflict like this can be a good testing ground for weapon systems. When it comes to munitions, though, I'm far more concerned about the state of play with regard to THAAD and Patriot, JASSMs, LRASMs, the whole panoply of high-end missiles that we've expended through not just this conflict, but sharing with Israel, providing to Ukraine, so forth and so on. Our defense industrial base is not in the shape it needs to be for the long haul, particularly if we get in some type of extended conflict with China, and that's what concerns me most.
We have some Patriot missiles in Poland, too. I remember I was at the border when the war started on Ukraine. I saw them. I mean, they're incredible in person, and we're supposed to, I don't know if we have yet, give weapons to Taiwan as well, because there's a threat of China. So, yeah, we're expended in multiple different places, which is why I think that the Secretary of War and the Pentagon is asking for $1.5 trillion in a brand new budget. Democrats have a big problem with this number, but they also have a problem with the firings happening within the Pentagon. This is Democrat Senator Jack Reed blasting Pete Hegseth this week on Capitol Hill. Let's watch.
You are hollowing out the military's bench of experienced and highest performing senior officers while making young officers wonder if they should continue to serve. My colleagues and I have heard from countless service members throughout the ranks, many of whom will be watching right now, who are confused and disturbed by your actions.
I want you to respond to that, Secretary. What do you think of these firings? And when you were there problems?
I don't recall having problems with any of the four-star admirals and generals to the effect that has been alleged over the last year or so. You know, the person of contention in the hearing was General Randy George, who I've known for many years. He was division commander when I was Secretary of the Army. He is one of the finest officers I have ever known, and is well respected. And what they were pressing on was what was the rationale for his firing. And I think that's a good question. I think that's fair for Congress to ask. The reporting was that Hegseth and the Army Secretary Dan Driscoll were at odds at this. And so I think these are fair questions to ask. Every time you fire a general officer or an admiral, you're losing anywhere from 30 to 40 years of experience. Doesn't mean you shouldn't, but I think it has to be carefully evaluated, not just with regard to the impact on the person, but arguably more importantly on the unit and the rest of the officer corps.
Is it a question that Democrats should use to hold up the Pentagon budget, especially in the middle of this conflict?
Well, no, I don't think that's sufficient. But keep in mind, both Republicans and Democrats were asking these questions the other 2 days, on Wednesday and Thursday. So it wasn't just Democrats. There's, again, a lot of concern about personnel turnover, such as happened over the last 12, 15 months. So, again, I think those are fair questions to ask. And I was asked at times with regard to personnel that had changed during my tenure. So it's not unusual.
Okay. Secretary, great to have you. Great to see you. And we'll have you back on soon.
Thank you.
Okay.